My plan moving forward when it comes to XCN, I think arguably is very simple, even though nothing I say is financial advice. First of all, the idea of 25 cents, that's still on my mind. And also on top of that, when I take a look at XCN, I'm going to still continue what I've been doing throughout this whole time, and that is dollar cost averaging, holding, and just waiting. Now, some people may be thinking, okay, take a look at the price chart. XCN had a pretty good rally not too long ago. There was a pullback, but it's never kind of returned back to that level. And I'm totally aware of that. However, at the same time, I've seen that usually when it comes to like a cycle, right? Usually Bitcoin does very well and then moves on to Ethereum and then some of the larger caps and then eventually some of the, more mid caps and then the smaller ones and then some micro caps, right? So I think arguably the time hypothetically may not be over yet when it comes to XCN this cycle. Even if I take a look back in history, altcoins usually, as a worst case scenario, they typically peak around 18 months after a Bitcoin halving event. 18 months after the last Bitcoin halving event would actually mean around October this year, because the last one happened in April of last year in 2024. Now, that's not an surefire date or something like that, because that's based off history. This cycle may be different. However, with the way altcoins are sort of heading as of right now, with the way Bitcoin's doing, and if the cycle keeps continuing, and let's say eventually some of that flows into the more larger caps, right? Not the one as big as Ethereum, but the ones that have kind of a pretty large market cap, but nowhere near as massive as Ethereum. And then it kind of trickles down to the mid caps, trickles down more. This is why I'm still staying patient. And also on top of that, even if, let's say, I had to wait another 6 months for whatever reason, that still wouldn't disappoint me because I've been waiting quite a while anyways. So what's another 6 months, arguably? It's not such a big deal in my perspective, at least in my case. And what I like about Onyx is that fundamentally, I like its positioning because by nature, Onyx is focused on global trade and finance and as well as the payments market. Very similar to Ripple and Stellar because Ripple and Stellar are also focused on those two markets. And I think XCN, because the market cap right now is like around 500 million, it's already kind of established itself as one of the key alternatives beyond XRP and XLM. So it's already kind of known in that sense, even though it hasn't become fully mainstream yet. And also, I've noticed that there is a demand for projects beyond like Ripple and Stellar, beyond, for instance, XRP and XLM, because their market caps are very massive. I mean, XRP current market cap is around 190 billion, It's really massive. And some people out there, they may not want that. So arguably, when I take a look at this whole space, yeah, sure, there's XRP and there's XLM. XCN is never overtaking that. But why would I arguably, personally in my perspective, not want to believe in basically somewhat this miniature version of XRP and XLM? We've seen how that model has kind of done, right? How that project that is focused on global trade and finance and the payments market, we've seen the attention that got. I'm not saying XCN is ever going to achieve that type of status, but maybe a miniature version of that. I would not find that too surprising to me. Because even if XCN went to the price of 25 cents, considering current circulating supply, market cap at that point would be around $8.5 billion. That's around a 17x from here. Again, $8.5 billion. That's not even 10% of XRP's current market cap. I saw what XCN was able to do not too long ago, and that was basically without that much hype for Onyx. That was basically without much of a bullish sentiment for altcoins, and then it still did that, which is kind of crazy to think about. So if XCN was able to do that, what would happen if, let's say, a lot of that volume from XRP and XLM started flowing into the other alternatives beyond that? If maybe some of that attention flows into other projects, if, let's say, as the program progresses, people start moving, from the larger caps to more mid caps or smaller caps. This is why I'm still staying patient when it comes to XCN. It doesn't mean any of that is going to happen, but at least I'm just believing in the projects that I find interesting, and that's it. I do not know the future, but at least I'm just kind of taking a chance a little bit because I just like the idea behind Onyx and kind of the positioning that it has in this space as of right now. However, in the meantime, again, I'm just going to be dollar cost averaging, holding, and just waiting because that's the only thing that is within my control. But when I take a look at all those factors right there, how can I not stay patient? That's the way to take a look at it. So my plan is still believing in Onyx and just dollar cost averaging because, quite frankly, the fundamentals when it comes to Onyx, I think arguably are a lot better than before, even when the price was much higher. Because if we take a look at Onyx, I think now the idea of Goliath, which is supposedly this layer one blockchain for the world of finance, I think that's more so kind of well known. And allegedly, the mainnet is expected to launch sometime around Q1 of next year. And I think there's a lot of good anticipation behind that. And also, we take a look at what Onyx V2 could hypothetically bring for Onyx, right? And also, maybe what the Onyx wallet could do for its future. Now, a lot of projects out there have wallets, even meme coins, but I still think Onyx is heading in the right direction. And I think fundamentally, to me, it arguably feels way better than before. So I'm just staying patient and dollar cost averaging, and that's about it. And feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I'd greatly appreciate it. It's Malik the Captain. I'll catch you all in the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.